Hello, everybody, and welcome to Show X on VTWProductions.com. You're listening live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT again, as we have caught up to the UK and most of Europe with our time change this week. Hello, everybody. It's time to start the show. Unfortunately, Ken is suffering some issues with internets today. He told me that his provider or something has happened where the entire street that he's on is sans connection right now. So unfortunately, that means you are left with me, for better or worse. So hopefully everyone's having a good day, and we will kick things off right away with a little bit of
dysfunctional deviations.
All right, so this week in Dysfunctional Deviations, let's see, what have I been up to? Let me check the notes. So I didn't have a lot to talk about in Dysfunctional today, as we're going to try to get through things to talk mostly about the BlizzCon announcements from this weekend. But to start things off, I did want to mention that I had the opportunity to go to another Halloween party this weekend, yesterday, to close out. One of the few advantages to having Halloween on a weekday is that, especially towards the middle of the week, it is not unheard of to be able to celebrate Halloween in party form both before and after the actual holiday. So this was one of those ones where I got to experience it multiple times. So not only host my own Halloween party, but also go to another friend's party this weekend. It was cool because this is kind of now a friend, but sister of a friend who she and her husband are significantly into celebrating the holiday. Enough so to even make me feel a little bit like I have work to do. Going to their house, they still had all the decorations up outside and everything, which is appropriate. But also, once you went into the house, and to tie it in just for my initial impression of things, I had my Ring Wraith costume on, the helmet that I printed, which when I talked about last time, one of the things I noted is that it has quite the spike on top of it, and so it stands much taller than I, and makes it a little bit difficult to maneuver, especially around when there's decorations and things above you or when the ceilings in the house are not that tall. I managed very well to come into it where I had my cloak on, which also, by the way, covers my mask, so it's black under the eyes like a ring wraith, so you don't see my face, which also obscures my vision some. But got into the house carrying booze to help donate to the cause. As I walked in, I had to stoop super low to kind of duck the top of the spike under things. Walking in, I was able to look up enough to see that they had decorated the roof or ceiling as well with a bunch of little webbing and such. So I actually kind of had to squat walk most of my way into the party, into the house, until I turned and made my way into, at the time, because my low vision I thought was out back, but it was actually the garage. Where I saw more things hanging. So again, was low and kind of until I snuck back to a quarter, was able to turn around and kind of just stand there. Now, what was fun about this is I had confirmed that I was going to the party, but only kind of on social media towards the end of things. I had not told anybody what costume I was going to wear. And I really only knew a handful of the people that were going to be there. Brock Sampson, his wife, her sisters, family and such, and the kids. With a couple of kind of mutual friends in between, but mostly didn't really know who would be there. And so once I got settled in the corner, I just kind of sat there. I had my bottle for me as well as I donated others, but my bottle of mead for me. Just kind of stood there for some time ominously in the corner. A little disappointed because nobody really came right up to me to kind of see who I was. Although I did hear a few chatters about, wait, who is that? And some little discussions about, is this some random person that came in? What's going on? But eventually, when the hostess of the party came out, and I saw her dressed as Eleven from Stranger Things, I was able to come up and kind of go, hello, and didn't talk a lot, but kind of waved and stuff like that. And she kind of looked at me as well, like, and then wasn't sure and didn't figure out who I was until I'd mentioned that it was my, first time being to her home, and I was really impressed with the decorations and stuff that I'd seen. At which point she kind of looked at me and was like, wait a second, and figured out who I was. But even then, my friend Brock and his wife didn't recognize me, and I felt a little, not bad for them, but like, what? Because the helmet I wore for my ring right that I 3D printed, I now have generally hanging in the top or in my living room on the wall, so anyone can see it when they come in my house. And they were at my Halloween party where it was up on the wall, and I just don't know if they never took note of it, even though it's a fairly impressive piece. But they had seen me walk by and had no idea who I was, as well as some other mutual friends. And so after the reveal and kind of went up, I went to talk to Brock, and one of the things I'd always do, and I was hoping would give it away, is I kind of went up to fist bump him, and he still kind of looked at me like, I don't know you. I was just like, oh, come on. And so I tried to keep hinting without saying anything, and finally, I'm trying to remember what I did that he got it. But at some point, knew it was me and was just kind of like, ah! And kind of revealed amongst, at which point I promptly got rid of the helmet because it is so tall and ungainly that it makes it difficult to wander about and interact with anyone. So eventually it found a spot to sit and kind of look over the party along with other props, which made it actually fit in pretty darn well because the host and hostess, they legitimately love Halloween as one of their primary holidays. And with that, oh my, their house is decorated, and I've been told kind of year-round, not specifically for Halloween, but a lot of the things they have up stay up. One of which, actually a couple of which, they have several full-size replicas of like heroes from movies or just characters from movies and shows. And so in their living room, walking in, they have a life-size Batman. From I don't think it's the most recent movie. No, it had to have been because it doesn't have the big ballistic armor kind of thing from the other movies. So it looks like mostly like the Ben Affleck Batman or such, but big, ominous, kind of sitting in the corner. Of course, for Halloween, then they had put an additional mask on its face. I want to say they'd put a Jason mask on it. In the living room, though, no, that was living room. Sorry, in the kitchen. One of their children had decided to invest at the Halloween store some of their own money and ended up adding a 7-foot-tall werewolf to their collection. Apparently loves werewolves. And so added that to their collection. Also then had in the garage a life-size Mike Myers from Halloween. That also was one that you could turn on and was animated, and the knife, it would sit there and the music would play, and it'd be just randomly turning and stabbing with the knife a little bit. What else did they have? There was at least one other life size. I think downstairs they had another. No, they didn't have a Batman. They might have just had mannequins because I think they also had some of their costumes on them because they had Green Arrow. And what was the other costume I saw downstairs? So yeah, just it was kind of crazy to see these mass like full on, life size images or creations of all these characters. Another notable one they had in the garage that was life-size but not as big and ominous was a Chucky doll, essentially, but it wasn't just a Chucky doll in the corner. It was one that was placed on this, what looked like a Roomba, essentially, and it would have been amazing if it were, but a disc that it was standing on that, when he was turned on, would cause him to like travel around the party floor. It would move around, and again, like the little knife arm would kind of go around, and its head would turn and make little noises, cackles, and laughs, and things like that. Things happening during that was quite entertaining. And we'll say that Chucky probably had, I won't say had it out for anybody, but definitely went and tried to make itself known to a few people. And I say this because it would just randomly move, but multiple times through the night of the party found its way onto people, saying hello to people in a way that it would roll right up as just the wrong height, where it'd come up and a little Chucky arm would like reach around your leg slightly. You kind of looked down like, what? First time I encountered, it felt like some small child had grabbed onto my leg or something, kind of like to look up at me and see who I was. And I looked down, I was like, okay. And then it was Chucky. And it was kind of like, huh, okay. Well, that's a thing. Which for me I found very entertaining. For some people, they're very put off by Chucky, and I find a lot of people are still very scared of Chucky. But this actually went out fine. But it was fun to watch as he would move around because he kept running into different people. One of my friends from work that was there, it kept gravitating towards him. So we started making jokes that they were, an item for the night, essentially. But that digressed into is going after a gal that was dressed as the lead character from Sucker Punch. I always forget her name. things like that, just kind of in and out. So just entertaining to kind of watch this little mechanical doll run around. And towards the end of the night, as people had been drinking a few, they had, I don't know if it was another mechanical one or such. I was in the other room at the time, but I kind of overheard. But they kind of had robot fights, and that they put Chucky up against this little ape-looking thing. I'm not sure what it was. And I think they both turned on, but had them basically fight and see who would knock the other one over or such, which was its own entertaining, ridiculous thing. So, yeah. But that was fun. Now, at the same time, it was a challenge for me because I was up late. And I don't know what it was, but I was so tired. And so that was a bit like much for me. I don't know what it was throughout the day. I guess just during this weekend, I didn't give myself enough time to really rest up and have power because I got up, I guess, early and started running around getting ready for things. One of which I'll talk about later, was helping support some friends who were streaming games throughout the day. But by the time I'd gotten to the Halloween party, I was a wreck. I don't know what it was, but I was exhausted. I made it pretty well, though, because I want to say I lasted till about 10. I got there somewhere around 6:37, so I did all right, but I had to run away and come home. Which is probably the best thing I could do. Let's see. I was hoping, since Ken's not here, to invite some others of my experts in to jump on air with us to help talk about this weekend's BlizzCon, but looks like may just drop in to at least chat in the IRC. Hydroxy could hopefully jump in this. I know he had a digital pass to be able to watch BlizzCon and was doing that over the weekend, so I was hoping to get some of his input, whereas I am playing catch up by just kind of seeing some of the news of what came out and having heard a few things announced from it. So letting him know that that's cool as heck. Let's see. So beyond the party, I mean, that was great. There were a lot of people that brought some really good costumes. The kids that were running around had a bit of a costume contest. They ended up throwing out paper slips to people to say, vote for your favorite. The host was dressed in a full, and won the individual costume contest for adults, was dressed in a full Ghostbuster outfit with a very well detailed and lit up proton pack. That was probably, I think, one of the highlights of what made his costume so nice. The second person, or the runner-up in the adult category, was dressed as Leatherface and looked pretty darn good, if not like a bit, well, properly creepy and stuff like that. And especially the mask he was wearing, a wig, was just like, oh, that was good. Kids, they got to participate as well, and they had their own contest, and in that I want to say that one of my friend's daughters, who was dressed as a vampire, did very well and won from the votes for the kids. And then for a group vote, and I think this was run by the kids as well, they had a family that was dressed up along with kids and adult as the Incredibles, family from the Incredibles, so that was good fun. Whereas my friends who were there were dressed as Addams Family, where they were, Morticia Gomez, and actually their friends came as their kids as Pugsley and Wednesday as well, and they looked very good. So that was all fun. I think what else went along with that. They had so many little details and things. Oh, hey, maybe. Oh.
Hello.
Let's see. Make sure I hit all the right buttons so that he's able to chat with us as well. As I now just see chest. It looks like we may get a Ken. He is adjusting things and trying to get things all set up, but it looks like he does have internet. And so hopefully he will be joining us here shortly. He's picking the proper camera up, getting things together. I don't hear him yet, but that might also be on my end.
You should.
And make sure to see if he's not muted or something.
Your end.
So he's pointing at me like it must be my fault. Yeah. So let me double check in here, because of course every week when I switch things over, I have to pick the right inputs, outputs, and things like this, and I think that's the proper one. So hopefully, are you there yet, Ken?
Yep, can you hear me?
Hey, look at that. Ken is here, which means I can turn off the little banner that says he's not going to play with us today.
And can you also de-robot yourself, sir?
Ha! He's asking. So I'll restart the audio engine now that I've got additional audio to play with, so hopefully that cleans things up for him.
Yeah, that's way better. Thank you.
Outstanding. Well, welcome to the show, Ken. Good to have you. I was just catching everybody up about my weekend shenanigans and doing some more Halloween celebrations and such. And so,
I'm sorry to have missed some of that.
nah, it's all good, fun, and proper. So now that you are here, as we're in our dysfunctional deviations, what have you been up to this weekend?
Well, apparently I've been having terrible internet. So I apologize for being here late. That was a little annoying. I was trying to be here. I was here early. I was here an hour early, but somehow I wasn't here on time. And that's due to the fact my internet pooped out about 20 minutes ago. So 5 minutes before the show, I sent Wayne a screenshot saying, "Yeah, the net's down." It was down for the neighbors and stuff as well. Oh, my dogs came to say hi. Hello. Out, out, both of you, out. They're sad because there's fireworks on.
Oh no!
So
Fireworks?
yeah,
What's
see, that's
happening
why
there?
that's why you can see a dog butt right there.
Yeah.
It happens every single year. November 5th is Guy
Oh
Fawkes Day,
yeah,
which is the night you're supposed to let off fireworks.
but that's
But
tomorrow.
people take it as soon as the clocks change, fireworks are every night, and so people are always just letting off fireworks, and it's quite
Gotcha.
yeah. No, if you sorry, can you give me one moment so I can get rid of the dogs? They
Yes,
don't
by
pop
all means.
around.
No, please do. So no, that's unfortunate, but yeah, I keep forgetting because of course for us and anyone else, it's kind of like how we have, Thanksgiving coming up in the United States. That is not a thing in most of the rest of the world. Well, for the UK, one of their big celebrations, like our 4th of July here, is their 5th of November, where you all hear, remember the 5th of November, and the whole thing about Guy Fawkes and everything. And as we every year
We've remembered
remind.
that. It's a good film for that.
Yes, as we remind everyone each year how Guy Fawkes actually was a terrorist, and this is a celebration of the failure they had of trying to take out Parliament with a bunch of bombs that were made up and such, and how it's not actually a celebration of good things. It's actually quite the opposite. But
Well,
yeah.
technically it's a celebration that's pro-British government in the sense that he tried to blow up Parliament and all the people within. I believe the King was in there as well at the time or something, and had all the politicians. And if Guy Fawkes had succeeded in letting off all the explosives beneath Parliament, then we would have been governmentless. It would have been anarchy and chaos. And so that's and people celebrate the fact that he got caught and they didn't get let off.
Yes, exactly. And so that's really what the celebration is about. But I can understand, well, that's a bit unfortunate for the amount of, like you said, fireworks going off continuously. I know how that is, that whenever we have celebrations, they're constantly there as soon as people can start buying them. So I can understand. But hopefully the Doges are okay. Uh-oh. I see Ken looking very frozen right now, which makes me wonder if he's not still being attacked by internet woes. But it is a good look he's got. I mean, look at him there, just like almost intense looking at the camera. Or not at the camera, but his computer. My assumption being that, yes, he might still be suffering a little bit of internet issues right now. Yes, as he's just messaged me. Oh, shucks. So, that's unfortunate. Hopefully, he will find some stability and be able to come back and actually play with us again. So, we will put the official message up again that Ken is in, out, and suffering. So we'll see if he comes back to us. Well, with that in mind, and it did make sense. I mean, we were hearing, he was talking about robots on his end. We were hearing him pop and kind of jumping around himself. And so there's that. Let's see. As I have get Hydroxy so he can join the chat. Send him a link. No, not money. A link. There we go, so that he can join in. Hopefully we'll see Hydroxycut join in to talk to us as well about BlizzCon, because I know, like I said, watched everything there. All right, so as we continue on, what else was I doing? As we hopefully will get Ken back at some point. Also this week, and one of the reasons that I may or may not be gaming as long this afternoon, is that it is the voting season here in the United States. Officially, people have been voting now for the past several weeks as they are able to mail in and do early voting as such. I am a weird person in that I like to do like the classic My Civic Duty by going out to a voting wherever a place has been set up for voting, and stand in line and hand in my ballot in person and make sure that I've been in part of the process. For whatever reason, that feels good to me, and I seem to always want to do that each year or every couple years when voting happens. And so I have not early voted, but in not celebration, but to prepare myself for voting this coming Tuesday, I have also made it available so that I can host people coming to my house this afternoon after the show, to be able to talk about what's going on and what needs to be voted on this year. Primarily, and it's funny because when I mentioned it, people really got concerned, thinking, oh no, you're going to host like people discussing politics at your house? What are you thinking? And my answer to that was, well, yes and no. I'm actually taking a page out of my sister-in-law's book, where one time I was out in California visiting she and my brother, and they were hosting an event where they had people over to talk about what was coming up in the election. And I think one of the key features to it, because everybody has their opinions about what direction they want to vote, what I am offering is a way for people to share a discussion about the propositions that are being put up for vote. So the actual changes to local law about some of the issues we have on the table is like increasing taxes, in some cases to be used for education, and in some ways to change some taxation and some ways of raising money to fund road construction projects, things like that here. On our ballot this year in my area, we have a thing to change the youngest age you can be, the minimum age to run for state government. I think here, locally, it's 25, and they want to adjust it to 21 to be able to be a participant as a representative or such in local government. What other sums that we have? There's a few different propositions out there to be discussed. And so my idea, my thought, and something I recommend to anybody out there, in general, it's just to be well-informed when you vote. That's my advocacy, is to, regardless of the issues you care about and are into, or what people are screaming about out in the world around you, I say personalize it, find out what your opinions are on them, get educated, understand the language that they want to change, add, or get rid of, or whatever it may be, and decide for yourself which way you want to vote on an issue. What I'm going to provide here is information about each of the different propositions. We are fortunate here in Colorado, hopefully in other places you have around the world when things like this happen, where we have a agreed upon nonpartisan representation book that gets mailed to every voter that discusses all the different propositions and puts it out there for anybody to be able to at least see what the text of it is, and to get a as nonpartisan as possible description of what it would change, and then a paragraph or so describing pros for it and cons for it, or against it, for every single proposition that's up, to hopefully give people the non-biased view of it. So I have that information to be able to review, as well as I've collected some of the various propaganda that's come through the mail and such that organizations are sending out to try to sway people's votes. Just so we have material to discuss about the propositions themselves. I'm going to try not to get into information about the individuals who are to be voted on for Senate, House, those kind of things, for judges and things like that. Because I think as long as you don't actually try to persuade anybody in the discussion about how they should vote, then we can have a smart, informational conversation without getting anybody in a tizzy, without angering anybody or making anybody feel like they're defending something or an ideal or whatever, and they can just have a discussion about information. So that's my goal. We'll see how well that actually works or not. And if it works well, hopefully I'll do it more often. If not, then hey, it was a fun experiment. We'll see what I get. It's going to depend, I think, likely on if anyone comes, and if so, who comes and what they are wanting to learn. So we'll see. But I am hopeful. I've already read through my blue book at least once, not all the way, but at least through the highlights of each of the propositions, so I know what's in there. I was hopeful because I've heard some information or some thoughts on some of the propositions from different people, and so I'm hopeful that I'll be able to read into like the actual lines of text in some parts of it to understand if there's any gotchas in some of the laws and the way they're trying to change it. So that's what I'll be doing after the show. Not until a bit after, so I may still be able to play some games right away, but that's part of what I'm getting ready for this week and what's going on for me. All right, with that, I think that was one of the main things I wanted to talk about that weren't geek this week. One of the things you can see, hopefully, everybody look it up here now, is that I have relocated again. I am no longer in the basement. I'm upstairs. And with that, hopefully it's even quieter and cleaner for what you hear today. I think the only fan noise in the room would be my computer, and it shouldn't be nearly as terrible as it used to be in the past. So that I'm looking out to you, Hando, to tell me a thumbs up or a thumbs down on my overall audio quality this week as we're doing that. As well as, admittedly, I've had some challenges with that because I'm back up on the 4K monitor. I've got that, and I should probably discuss that as I get into geek cred here. Just kind of, I've been used to being downstairs for a while. And so there are just little things that happen. I had made it as easy as I can to move up and downstairs, but little things have tweaked out where this move didn't go as cleanly as I'd hoped, and we'll get to that. But I think that might be all I have for dysfunctional deviations today. Also, just a reminder to everybody out there, if there's anything in particular you would like for us to mention, talk about, or get into on the show, please email us at showx@vtwproductions.com. We keep track of that, and I would love to be able to bring up anything that you have for us to speak on. With that, I want to shout out to Hydroxycut for following Show X, as I got the notification for that. Much love. Thank you for that. And, all right. Thank you, Hando, for letting me know my audio is sounding solid. So, because I had to do some definite adjustments up here to make it all fit. So now we're going to transition over to a little bit of...
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek cred, level up!
Hey, don't get ahead of us. We're just on Geek Cred. All right, so with Geek Cred this week, what have I been doing that's been geeky? And if Ken gets back to us at some point, his internet decides to behave, we'll just roll him up to have him fill us in all the details of what he's been doing. So, first thing I wanted to talk about, Geek Cred. So I will continue on discussing about the computer, moving it up here. So to make life easier after Game Fest, or to represent for LAN parties and such that I host, one of the things I did is I basically created a setup where downstairs I have 2 monitors ready to go, as long with all the cables and stuff plugged in for it. So whenever I move my computer, all I really have to do is move the tower, leave all the cables that tuck behind my desk and such where they're at. I bring, of course, keyboard, mouse, all that down, as well as some of the USB devices that I have plugged into a USB hub I have here. So like the cameras for my Oculus, if I'm going to have that downstairs, my wireless connector for my Xbox controller, my cameras and stuff like that, just for being able to do the show on the Sunday there, as well as the rig. So the mixer desk and those kind of things. So it's still a decent amount of things I have to move up and down. But in doing so, one, because I have this ridiculous monitor that I use primarily right now, this 4K Ezio, whatever, Ezil, whatever, I forget the name of it, monitor that's a medical grade thing, that is 110 pounds and therefore not going to move unless I absolutely must. So I just leave it here. And so that way I just go down and use the other 2 monitors I have downstairs. Well, coming up this time, one of the challenges I ran into, or something that was new to me, is that one, getting things reset up on the desktop and just organized from these 2 monitors from 2 1080p's, not a big deal, used to that. But coming back up, I failed somewhere. And that is that my headphones that I use for gaming are G33 Logitechs, which are their wireless headset, which I quite enjoy. Wireless, although I have a power wire plugged into it if people are curious. Actually, in this case, it's just headphone jack, because I somehow, between up and downstairs, lost, and I should have used this feature that they have, because for LAN parties such, they have this cubby hole on the side that you can plug their sound, the USB sound card on it, the wireless sound card. And I don't know where it happened, because I just moved from down to upstairs, but I don't know where that dongle went. And so I am without my actual 7.1 wireless headphones. Instead, I have it plugged in old-fashioned mode from the front jack on my computer for just audio out. So I'm running it in just regular stereo as a traditional headphones. And it works, and I'm able to play in stereo, but now I'm not getting my good 7.1, so I'm a little sad there. And I have scoured the path between where I was downstairs and up here and cannot find this dang dongle. I think it might have fallen off when I stacked things on my chair and brought my chair back up, but I don't know. And I have concern because my 2 brat cats that I have love to make toys of any and everything they find laying about the house, especially on the floor. And so there is a high likelihood that me not noticing it was gone meant they found it and have moved it somewhere in the house. and I have no way of knowing where or how to find it. So that's a concern. But that was one of the struggles with the move up. The other struggle I've had, a couple little ones. One is that my computer seems to randomly be locking up, and I don't know why. It hasn't yet happened while I've been actively using it. But it seems that when it's gone to not sleep, but at least sat long enough that screensaver type things would come on and screens would shut off. But something has happened that when I try to turn it back on, move the mouse and everything, nothing happens. I check my keyboard and mouse, and the keyboard numlock is just stuck where I can't off and on it, which tells me that a USB device has either failed or something else on the computer locked up. I can't really tell. I haven't done it in such a way that I've been able to see, because like my small monitor will kick back on, but my big one won't, to a degree. And so I've seen like just the scene recently frozen, but I can't tell what's causing it, and that's been a pisser. So I've been going through and trying to figure out if I have anything installed. Nothing should be different from when I was downstairs, but that might be interfering with what it's doing. So still working on that one. That's annoying. I'm afraid, and this the main reason why is because I've had this happen to me before, and one of the reasons I've had to rebuild my system more often than not since I got to Windows 10 has been that it'll lock up so bad that when I go to restart it, I have to do either a reset button, let it just kick back on, or a full power cycle if it's too bad. And I've had more than a few occasions where that has corrupted my master boot record, which is a serious pain in the butt, because now you have to use recovery disk of some sort to actually get it to rewrite and get yourself back on. And I've had it go so bad that I actually lost my partition and wasn't able to recover it fully. I'd really rather not have to run into that again. So when I actually lost a drive. So I'm a little concerned every time I have to hard reset it or anything like that, because it might be in the middle of a write cycle or something, and that can destroy hard drives. So hopefully I can figure that piece out. That one's just grr. Along with that, though, I think the other thing, and this one I think I finally got sorted for the most part, but it's my gaming and streaming, as I brought up. So hopefully the stream is looking clean and solid for right now. I'm actually on my older Logitech 310 video camera right now, because I've got my nicer 920 in the other room for when I do some martial arts things, because it has a wider camera than this one does. But I think this works where it's at right now for the show. So hopefully you see me in enough glory that you're happy. You don't need to see any more. But with it also, as I've been streaming and trying to game, the challenge I have with this big 4K monitor I have, it's dual DVI. And with that, it has an issue where, because it's dual DVI, it sees each half of the screen as a 2K monitor, essentially, but vertical. So it's 4K, but split down the middle. And that would be fine, except that until I get it all worked out through the software on Windows, it sees it as two monitors. It'll show up as a single display, because or like two monitors with no bezel in between is what it shows up. So you can still drag windows across and such, but when you try to game, and it'll try to default to 19:10 in a lot of games, it'll come up in this weird squished kind of perspective, not 16:9, but kind of opposite squished, only on one half of the monitor, and the other half will be blank. So I have to go in and enable the NVIDIA Surround or AMD Infinity mode, depending on which cards you have, and make it so that it all sees it as one monitor, and that way I can game to it and things properly. Now the challenge with that is it's a 4K monitor. So one of the issues is that 19:10 resolution, if I run anything that is full screen that wants to take control of the monitor, and it is not running at a solid 4K, it messes with the way it displays and actually tries to force it back to that half the monitor displaying data and the other half not. Like one of the challenges I run into is if I maximize a lot of the programs I have, if I just hit maximize, it'll maximize, but in a window just on one half of the monitor, not throughout the whole monitor. It's kind of, again, that weirdness of having it be two displays seen as one. So that being a bit of a challenge, a lot of my games have suffered through that, where I've either had to resort to playing some of my games in windowed mode so that they show up right where I want them, or if I do try, I can run some in 4K, that's fine, but 4K takes a lot of rendering horsepower, and I'm only running an NVIDIA 1080. Not a TI, which would probably be okay, but just 1080. So there are a lot of games that do not really play as smoothly as I'd like in full 4K resolution. So what I've come to rely on recently, because I have mostly sorted it, although not every game has allowed it, but there are a lot of modern games today. Thank you, actually, I will say, as we lead into Blizzard news and such, thank you, Blizzard, for a lot of your engine games supporting this. But the ability to render to the monitor at full resolution, in this case 4K, but at the same time telling the computer to change your sampling size of how much you're actually going to render, In a lot of cases, what I've seen this used is if you have a powerful enough system to be able to run at full resolution of your monitor, but at the same time, you maybe want to have better detail, almost like doing anti-aliasing and those kind of tricks you can do to get rid of edges and things like that, and kind of better get what the pixels would be like between things. You also have ability to super sample, I guess. There's official names for it, but where you actually tell the computer to render more resolution than your display. Excuse me. What that allows is in some of those fringe cases where things kind of hit at angles and go across pixels, you're going to have a more accurate measurement of what that pixel should be, because it is rendering, it's just only able to display less of the resolution. Well, some of these games also have a feature, so a lot of times what that means is people will be playing a 1080p display, but they'll actually render 2K, and it just makes that 1080 look as crisp as possible. You still only have those pixels, but every pixel is accounted for based on what was rendered by the PC. There's discussion there about whether it's valuable or not, but I've seen it work, and it does look really nice. It's truly maximizing what a display can do. What I have found is on the other side of that, which is actually telling it to render out the full 4K resolution to the screen, but having the video card only actually process and render out a lower resolution. And so there's some that'll actually let you define specifically the resolution you want to run at, while others will let you kind of do a percentage up or down from the base resolution. And so with that, I've essentially been trying to run most of my games in 2K resolution on the 4K monitor, and it's been working. So examples of that have been Call of Duty 4, the new one that's out. That's actually worked very well, because when I was running at full 4K, it would just be choppy, and I maybe get 40 frames per second, which is playable, but when you're doing competitive online or anything that's Twitch-based, not nearly enough. And so now that I have it rendering at like 70, and people could do the math if they want, but 70% of 4K, I'm actually getting in the 90 frames per second range, and it looks really good on the monitor without hiccups. So a thing for anyone out there who's trying to best maximize their performance in something they're doing, if you have an underpowered card, something you might try to do is still run the full resolution of your monitor instead of running low, but just telling the software basically that you want to only render at a lower resolution. It's been working for me for the 4K monitor, so I'm still sending a 4K signal that makes it take up the full screen, but it looks slightly softened compared to a true 4K image because I'm rendering less. But that's been running really good. It works in Overwatch really well. I haven't tried it in WoW. I don't know if WoW can. I'm still actually running WoW in a window. My regular 1080p window just moved on the monitor because it's able to handle that pretty well. So I'm okay with that. Those are the main things with it. But that's been an interesting challenge, bringing things together and getting it to still play. So that's something I've been doing. Beyond that, and thank you, Hydroxycut, for giving us some information, because that was the other event that I have not followed, but as we get after the break and start talking news, I definitely want to talk about what's that called? The Nintendo... Oh, see, they have whatever they call their names. For me, I always wanted to call it the Treehouse, because I've seen that mentioned before, but that's not what the event was. The Nintendo Connect or something like that, or Nintendo something? You guys will tell me. And so, yeah, some of the news that's been coming out from Nintendo to follow on and to maybe talk about before we get into the BlizzCon news. So thank you for bringing us. Nintendo Direct. There we go. Because I know, Hydrox, you were watching that, and I'm pretty sure, Copy, you had some visibility of that as well for all the Nintendo fans out there. So thank you both for filling that in for me. But yeah, no, we can talk about some of that. In fact, I will try to make a point of looking at the news here to say Nintendo Direct... October 2018, because did they have more than one this year? They did. And so that way we can see some of the news coming out specifically about that. Because the only part I've heard about, and we'll talk about again, is the plant. And so, but let me open up a couple of those for potential news as well after the break. And I will finish up my geek cred here shortly. All right, so other things that have happened or that were geek noteworthy. Have you guys heard of Extra Life? This is one of those events that we've seen versions of it or the idea done multiple times. But Extra Life is a gaming event where you can sign up for a team, and basically the goal is to stream for 24 hours and to try to raise money in the process. In this case, a friend of mine, Toby, and my friend Nightmare Loki, who you can follow on my Twitch, or you can find their Twitches. I tweeted them both out at some point for people to check them out. And with that, they were both streaming the 24 hours. I think they took turns at one point where they each passed out for a little while because they started at midnight Friday night and went all the way till midnight last night. But they were playing multiple games to raise money. I think I forget the exact name of their team. It was something based on what was it? It was a kind of a pun in a way. But I forget the name of the team. But their goal, because they're the minimal team, just some people that they know, was to raise about $500, and they succeeded. In fact, they ended up raising, I want to say, $855 for a children's hospital. So good props to them, and I was happy to be able to tweet out, and hopefully if any of you guys saw their streams or donated, thank you very much for that. That's an event that if people are interested, I know I have been for a while, I've actually wanted to set up with VTWers to try to do a 24-hour stream for us, both channels from your own area as well as like hosting a LAN party event or something here to have people just game solid for that whole time to raise money for a good cause. So shout outs to them, happy to have been able to help support them in that way. I was on their streams to make sure they had viewers up, as well as I donated a bit. And one of the things I did is yesterday morning after I got up, I actually headed over to Toby's house where he was at to provide them sustenance. So I showed up with some food and caffeine to help their cause, to help them keep playing, and hung out with them for a little bit, just kind of watching their stream as they were playing some Overwatch while I was there. So that was good fun. But yeah, so hopefully, and if you guys are interested, let me know. But I am definitely thinking about doing some Extra Life in the future. And as Copy says, I found an Extra Life streamer playing Phantasy Star Online. I did see you watching a Phantasy Star streamer, so that does not surprise me that much. That's actually pretty much what I would expect. Let's see. And Ken is still suffering, saying that the internet is painful and that both he and Kitten Features don't know what to do with themselves. They are crying. And I do sympathize, Ken, because oh my, being without internet is pain, especially when it's not something you were hoping to do. All right, so beyond that, other things that I have been playing, doing, or been a part of this week for my gaming and geek cred, since I got about another 18 minutes here before we hit the break, is that thanks for people out there who made note of it, because otherwise I probably would have missed it. And this is an announcement for anyone out there who hasn't taken advantage of this yet. But Blizzard, as we lead into some of their news, has actually made Destiny 2, the base game, free for anybody who wants to grab it in their Blizzard account right now. You can just log on to Battle.net, to the Blizzard, I guess, I don't know if it's officially called that anymore, but under the Activision tab with Destiny 2, if you get in there, it is free. And I think it goes till, what is it, November 18th officially, I think is what it's called. But as long as you get hold of it, apparently it'll be yours to play throughout. Now, this does not include the latest DLC Forsaken, which you can purchase in addition right now if you want. But it does have the base game, and so you're welcome to jump in there and grab it. I did, and one of the things I'll give them credit for, because this comes from Bungie, our friends who made the Halo games, it plays really smooth and pretty. Like, it is not my primary go-to for how a FPS or third-person shooter type game should be played. It is reminiscent in minor ways to me of a Borderlands, that kind of setup. But with this kind of hybrid open world setup where you can just run up on other people that are on the server with you, help them in world events, things like that, party up, go do story events, things. It's pretty smooth. It's pretty clean. I did not play a lot of any previous Destiny part of it. I think I'd gotten to a beta once before for Destiny 2. And what's nice is it still holds out in that, at least on my setup, it plays phenomenal. Like, it defaults, and I have criticisms, but it does default to 4K on my system. And it plays butter smooth. I want to say I'm getting a full 60 frames per second constantly. I don't know if it's doing something in the background, because it does have limited controls for what you can do in the advanced features for your video settings. Unlike some traditional made-for-PC games, this one feels very much to me like a console port, or one that's kind of a hybrid, but leans heavily towards console. And I mean, even that with some of the controls and stuff as you walk in, it looks like it is designed and more comfortable to be played with a controller. But it's a shooter, so I'm playing it mouse keyboard, and it works. But it is gorgeous. Like, I know there are games that have higher resolution in the worlds and things you're doing, but just the way they put it all together, they get such good performance out of it. And I have really enjoyed kind of just touching it again and playing a little bit of it. Now that it's free, I probably will play it more. I know I got a comment from Roxy when she saw that I was downloading or installing it or such, that she was excited, apparently enjoys it. So I do throw it out there for anybody. If you want to have a game that you can kind of showcase the power of a PC a little bit right now, jump on Destiny 2. The nice thing also is you can play with friends. I don't know how many. And so far I've only done random just by myself, but in open world events running into other people and us participating in kind of these little incidents or little concentrations where a bunch of enemies will come out, and usually a boss character or something you take out, and then they generally have decent loot afterwards. And so I've been able to level up and loot high from some of those world events. But yeah, I would say check it out. I haven't gotten in depth enough to really talk detail about it. It seems like it has a good, fun, futuristic story going along with it. But I will say it's also a little convoluted for me so far about how you finish and continue some of the story quest things, because it's almost actually reminds me a lot about Division as well, for the way that's played. And so yeah, also, you guys still seeing my stream okay? Because my window for Twitch shows at least that it says something got unplugged, but I think that's just the Twitch interface in my... Yeah, it looks like I'm okay. I had to refresh, but good. I think I'm fine. But it's where it doesn't lead you by the hand down the path of everything you need to do in the game. It's kind of like there's a point that you can go start an event and click on a thing in the menu, and it'll start you going to with some waypoints of where to go. But the nice thing is they, for the most part that I've played so far, they don't do it behind any loading screens. So you kind of get it from this one hub area, this church, and from there you venture out into the world for these quests. And the world is already there, so in a lot of ways you can just go anytime you want. Although I have run into areas that are populated by much higher level characters, and so it's not advisable for me going ones that when I shoot it says immune, and they have just over the level question mark, essentially death skulls. And so yeah, they still kind of wall you in based on your ability to even perform in an area. But for the most part, it's all just open, and so I don't run into load screens and stuff like that very often, which has been pretty cool. So yeah, I'd say check it out. Destiny 2 has been fun for me so far, and it's shooter-esque, but without being a Twitch shooter. It's kind of like a Halo, but more advanced, a little tighter. So initial feelings is recommended, and I will tell you, for the price of $3.99 for it being free, it is absolutely worth your time and effort downloading. Although I also want to say it's a pretty decent sized download. I don't remember if that one was the 80 gig or something else was. So I have some hard drive space available, because it is a big game as well. All right. The last thing I wanted to talk about for what I've been doing Geek this week, and it ties a little bit into news in general, is on one of the Discord channels I was in, I found someone who was kind enough, and I hadn't thought about it, kind of lost track, that this weekend was also the Fallout 76 beta, or at least, I don't know how long it's been going, but there was at least a day of it this weekend that I got to participate in. I want to say there might be another one this afternoon or today, but I am doing show stuff, so I'm not playing anymore. But I got to jump on and got a code from someone and downloaded, the 50 gigs of files for the beta, because it's getting pretty close to launch here. And I was able to get in. I played it for about 2.5 or so hours yesterday. And if you checked, I was streaming it. So if you want to actually see it real time of me playing, you could always go back and check out the Fallout 76 stream I did on Twitch yesterday. I believe under my Doc Dead account. I don't think I did that one under ShowX. So check out my Doc Dead account, and you should be able to find that one. I like it. That's kind of my just quick dirty of it, if you want nothing else as an answer, but I did enjoy it. Fallout 76, and I've read a lot of criticisms from people, or kind of discussions about their initial impressions. And what I've kind of consistently heard from people so far is that they felt the graphics weren't quite up to snuff, that they felt more Fallout 3 than Fallout 4 to a lot of people. I question that. Maybe I'm just of a different memory of what was going on, and I actually would challenge most people that have that opinion. Are you remembering the graphics of the vanilla game, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and comparing it now to Fallout 76? Or are you comparing it to the version of Fallout you maybe actually played, which, at least in my case, involved a ton of mods? Because it's almost impossible for me to play a Bethesda open world game without adding as many mods as I feel are appropriate to make the game look and play beautifully. And so I'm wondering about that, because I will say that as I played it, I did run up on close onto textures and stuff and saw kind of a muddiness where they could definitely do well with some 4K textures. But at the same time, I don't think they were bad. And partially because, at least in my experience or my memory of the other Fallout games, this one is a much more densely populated area when it comes to trees and brush and rocks and water and cars, all these kind of things that you just run into the world. I want to say that this Fallout so far feels like the most densely populated one that I've run into, in that there's just more things right around me at all times. Or even in Fallout 4, there was a sense that while there was a little more greenery and there were some big, well-detailed cities, areas, for the most part, there were a lot of barren open areas as well. Or not barren, but open in a way that they only had so much debris, so much little bits of clutter and stuff around, unless you were in their kind of signature spots, where this one has rolling hills, trees everywhere, bushes everywhere, things like that, where it felt more Skyrim-esque in how densely the world looked and how it had enough greenery and such to actually feel lush and not just like a Fallout desert. So I liked that. Also, they have tons of, not NPCs in the sense of what you're used to with the Fallout, but monsters and such, mobs to run into. And so that, I only got into a few because of that base time I played, but they had a good variety, and it was fun to kind of level up weapons, get things, craft, do all the stuff you're used to in a Bethesda game to prep for these events. I found that enjoyable. So I'm curious about the thought people have had where they didn't say the graphics looked as well. I think it would support or look great if they did a high definition texture pack once they get it out there and see how people's performance is. I ran it beautifully, and again, this is when I was running at, I want to say, a full 4K, because it didn't have all that many features of how to customize it. I was actually quite disappointed in Fallout that it didn't have an ability for me to run it in a scaled down mode of 4K, like the other games. That bothered me because I think it would have performed so much better than it. Still ran smooth, just probably not as fast as it could have if I ran it 2K. And the other issue I had is that I could tell, I don't know if this is because it's beta or because, again, it's going to be one that will likely reach over to console, but it didn't have an ability for me to adjust the... Wait, did that one do it? No, that one did have the ability for me to adjust the camera field of view. That one was okay. I want to say it was Destiny that didn't let me. One of them was, there was one that didn't, one that did. I want to say Destiny didn't let me adjust field of view, and that's why it felt more consoleized, where Fallout did. But Fallout also made me feel like there's a need or some option, hopefully, to get into the INI still and do a lot of configuration changes, things like that, because I think it would benefit from tweaking. I really do. It still ran good, and I guess the big news of all things Fallout 76 that people are really concerned with, I did not get into the crafting. I did have an issue where when I created the character I was using, I thought I was creating a guy, but it defaulted to a female, but by the faces I was seeing initially, I could not tell. And so it wasn't until I actually finished my character I was feeling a little off because it felt like the option for some of the hairstyles and stuff weren't as robust as I thought, and I forgot I didn't run into a beard option or something like that as I customized. So I didn't realize the character I made was female until I stood up, essentially, until the character was off and I got a quick 3D view, and I was like, that is not pectoral muscles. Those are breasts. Huh. So I don't know if it's a good or bad thing in the character creation, but for whatever reason, maybe I just missed it. But I did not know that I was making a female. And I was first like, oh, I'll just make a cute female. And then I was like, this already looks like it's a guy, so let me just do a guy and run around and see how close I can make it look like me. So that was a thing. But beyond that, when I actually got into the game, it starts you off like you do most things, where you are the last to leave the vault kind of idea after a big party that's saying, you know, woohoo, we survived, get out of here. At least in this case, is the rest of your vault dwellers and such didn't go down the hatch and die in some way before you got up and out. So it's nice that it's got a little more optimistic kind of output for things, and that you're starting off and you just happen to be the one who slept in because you partied too hard and everyone else is already out and about in the world. So that helps. But I ran into something really odd as I was getting started, and they have a decent run around kind of open world where you fumble through it yourself and finally lead you down a path to get you out the vault the right way and a little prepared for the world. But the thing that I ran into that I couldn't understand or wasn't sure what was going on, and it messed me up for the long. You'll see it on the stream if you watch mine, where I was like kind of going, what is that? Is that they, in order to help support that this is a multiplayer game, they've added voice chat in it and enabled it by default. And the type of voice chat is kind of a global. And I think it's set up by default as a proximity one, where depending on how close to, not done in the best way. It's a proximity one in that you only hear voices of people that are somewhat close to you. Whatever that range is, in my books, it was actually fairly far, because it wasn't like you were listening to people talk from their character. It was being broadcast at an even level, no matter where they were within this fairly large radius for where you could suddenly get people's conversations. And what messed me up is I didn't know that was a feature, and so I initially just started hearing background noise like someone had an open mic and little bits of discussion. I was like, what is that? That's annoying as heck. And so I went checking, because it was at the same time that I was still supporting my friends with their Extra Life stream, so I had their stream up on Twitch. I kept going over to it, like, am I missing something? I thought I muted everything. And checking all that and kind of muting it. No, that's not it. And so I was looking around trying to shut off Discord, shut off other things, kind of like, no, where's that coming from? I swear I hear someone talking. And it got quiet for a while. And it wasn't until I was running around the game at some point I looked and I saw this little speaker icon come up when someone started talking, and I heard them, and I was like, oh, they have audio in here. So I started going through their settings for their audio chat. And that one did annoy me, because I couldn't find out where a proper push-to-talk setup was, or at least an easy way to do it. And the options for your chat were either team, essentially global, or proximity. And I don't think any of that, well, I didn't have anyone team up with, so I don't know. Global seems like that would be a mess, depending on how many people are on the server. Proximity is what I really like, for the most part. The challenge I have is they don't do it like other games I've seen done well. I'm trying to think, like PUBG, I want to say, actually is one that does it really well for their audio, spatial audio, in that you can hear people who are talking over the in-game chat near you, and it sounds loud based on how close they are to you. So there's a drop-off in the volume. Whereas in Fallout right now, it seems like everyone's at an equal volume, which just was confusing to me, because someone who could be up over the hill but within range of the thing on one side will be talking in one ear, and then someone who's right next to me or whatever talking in the other, and they'd sound the same. And that just to me made it more annoying than it was useful. Like, I might have actually left it on. I shut it off completely, because I was like, I am tired of hearing people that have terrible microphones or aren't using headsets or whatever, so I'm just getting feedback and hearing all this noise that I was like, no, I don't want to bother with this, so I shut it all off. But if they actually enhanced it so that it specifically, you would hear the person talking from their character from a direction they were talking and an appropriate volume based on the distance, I would probably enable it, because it gives you more insight into the world and makes it more realistic. And I think that would be kind of cool. Like I said, they've done that in PUBG, and it was something that I almost wish they forced. Like, I kind of do wish they forced it. Because right now everyone uses side chat clients like Discord, so they take away the realism with that, and that you're just talking to your own channels. You could yell, scream, whatever. And the way it was implemented in PUBG, when you first would drop and people were just using it in-game because they're getting a lot of random groups, it was actually kind of cool that you would hear people talking about looking for you in the house or something. You'd be hiding in a house and hear people sit there and say, okay, I think he's upstairs. I'm pretty sure I saw him run. And you could react accordingly. So you could keep your mouth shut and like go bust out a window and take off. So hopefully they, running up the stairs while you're running out the other direction. But other times, if you were quiet and you just heard people come in, you could just suddenly hunker down and be quiet and wait for them to come into your line of fire and then blast them with a shotgun or something, giving you advantage of sound and being quiet. And so it was really cool. I'd like to see them implement some version of that in Fallout 76. I think that would be pretty cool and a good use of 3D spatial sound. Beyond that, so the sound was a little bit, like I said, of a mess initially. And I was so that once I got turned off, I was okay. Because once I turned it off, I started actually enjoying just playing the game. And for me, it played very much just like another Fallout game. And at least in my books, that's actually a good thing. I like the Fallout games, although Fallout 4 I did not put nearly enough time into. I did like this one, and so it's feeling good for me. The way they were doing questing in Fallout 4 or Fallout 76, I think, is pretty good. They lead you out the gate with some information as you pick up stuff right away. They kind of guide you following the steps of the Overseer, the person that was hosting you in the vault and was in charge of everyone's well-being. That, unlike previous Fallouts where the Overseers were potentially evil, this one was good and set you out. And you follow their path, and they kind of get you set up, and it helps you integrate into the new world that you run into. And in this world, there's people, of course, who've existed already and survived, and what that's changed of some mutations and things like that. And it's fun because there's some stories where you go into at least one village and it talks about people who initially were like firefighters and police officers and kind of other civil servants like that who were protectors who came together after the initial nukes and were trying to rebuild society and such, but ended up kind of, I think, getting corrupted and becoming peacekeepers in their own sense. And I forget, they remind me of what the Brotherhood of Steel, almost like the early pieces of it. So we'll see where that story goes. But you get to catch up on some of the stories a lot through the audio tapes and stuff like that. It still has the same look and feel of a Fallout with kind of the retro future in a lot of things. Weapons and such, they drop from everything, stuff like that. There's another thing that actually was a challenge of mine, because as I was playing through multiple different games, I was playing another one where you would think that a lot of the loot would be available based on what you're seeing people wield, and then it wouldn't be. And it's like, well, that sucks. In Fallout, it was a little interesting because I think there's naming issues in some of it, because I watched, or maybe they do a random loot thing after they shoot. I don't know what it is, but it happened mostly for me with melee characters where there was someone coming at me with an axe. And I go take them out, and then when I go to loot them, they had brass knuckles. Like, what? What is that? And so there was some little tweaks there, but for the most part, it worked well. The other thing was that, and I've heard this complaint from a few others, that you can't basically strip people down to their, skivvies, in the sense that you can get some armor off of people and drops of weapons, and the weapons tend to be mostly accurate. But you may see them running around in what looks like a really cool, duster or something like that, but you can't get to their clothing level. Only if they're wearing armor. You can sometimes salvage armor off people. But other than that, it plays a lot like a Fallout. One of the things I did like about that, though, is that it felt in a way like a Destiny, or even, like I said, with Division and such, where I was able to play mostly solo and follow the quest lines and enjoy it. But I did run into a situation where it was waves of essentially zombies, Scorched or whatever, that were coming in to fight me after I was protecting something or picking up a supply drop, and it was causing enough noise that a lot of people were being drawn to it. And so I had to take out waves. And the initial one, I started it, and I took out the first wave, not a big deal. You ran around, looted some corpses for some guns and ammo, kept going around, kept running out. And then the next wave, a little tougher, but it was making it up to a point where I was kind of on this little raised platform at an airport, like steps or something going up that you would use to get to a plane. And some got up the steps after me, and I had to melee them off me and keep shooting stuff because the guns don't carry a ton of ammo. This isn't a straight FPSer. So kind of saving bullets, headshotting, things like that. So it felt really good. By the third wave, though, I was starting to get a little overwhelmed. I was like, oh, I'm not going to make it. Ooh, I don't have enough health items and stuff to fix myself between waves. This is going to suck. Somewhere towards the end of the third wave, though, when I was about to get destroyed, hey there, legend. Welcome to the stream. That randomly, all of a sudden, the wave was over. I saw people die, and I was like, what? And I looked, and some other Vault survivors had showed up and started taking them out as well, and at various levels. And they actually stuck around, where initially one other person joined, and a third, and then a fourth, and they stuck around for the rest of the event, and we all just sat there and taking out all the various waves that came in. And I survived. And the nice thing about that is the loot that dropped was instance. And so everybody came in to loot, and we all got to drop off the chest that was dropped off and run off from there. And it seems like any of the main either quest line or kind of drops that are like that are instanced in the world in a way that you can get it and so can someone else. That it does look there's some communal ones as well, the mailboxes, things like that might be, but the bigger crates are things that would be either needing keys or any kind of a reward one look like they're instanced so everybody gets something, which is really cool. Look at that. John and Beck coming together as Legend Tinker. That's cool. Oh, hey, am I? Is it? Maybe just in time for a break. Hey there, Ken.
Yeah, trust that. Hello.
Just in time for a break as I'm finishing up my discussion about the Fallout 76 beta that I participated in this weekend.
Oh, I wish I heard that. Damn it.
Ken's day.
Viewers.
That's all right. But yeah, to finish things up with that, essentially, I am enjoying what I felt of it, and I'm on the side right now of buying Fallout 76. I know Copy followed and was able to watch some of my stream, and was lamenting again that her Amazon pre-order for the Legendary Edition got canceled, because it does look really pretty, and I like the way it played. They had done some things where you can't get into every single house or every little thing. Some are just closed, you can't get into, but a lot are open. And again, the quests were flowing fine. The world's pretty. I am looking forward to spending more time in it. I did not do any of the construction. I didn't play with any of that. I played with a little bit of the crafting. I really wanted to get to repair because I've ended up in a couple guns I like that I wanted to keep up maintained, because I had at least one break on me in the middle of fighting was clink, broken. I was like, no! And I had to quick go to my Pip-Boy to grab one of the other ones on my inventory, which is another piece of 76 that's different. Because this is multiplayer, you can't pause.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I know it's kind of off, but it's Fallout, right?
Well, it's Fallout, right? And so you can't pause the game, and even the VATS is different. And I didn't play with VATS fully. It does exist. And instead of it being VATS where it stops all the action, you pick the target, like, I will shoot you in the head, and it's an 86% chance, versus the back leg, which is a 50% chance, or, you know, each of the body parts. I only enabled it slightly once against one of the Scorch kind of characters. And when I did, it came up with kind of that VATS look of a highlight over them, and it highlighted them, zoomed in on them a bit, but the action was still going. And what it did is it simply gave me a percentage chance to, I guess, crit them or hit them. And once I did, I don't think I was straight aiming at them anymore so much as I just shot, and it would give me the percentage chance to actually hit them with VATS. And so
Alright.
I don't know where the advantage of that is yet, but I will see. And yes, for anybody who's listening, I think what's happening is, Ken, as your internet is resolving itself, you may be hearing me robot a clip a little bit, but we are hearing on our end from you a little bit of clipping, but your video looks good. And so that might just be something with our packets are not as happy as they'd like to be between the oceans due to getting your internet back up and alive. But we'll see. Hopefully it works out and maintains, and after the break might be better. So we'll see. But that was part of it. And the other piece is inventory management. Because you don't ever pause, you can't just open up your Pip-Boy to suddenly take your time and look through all of the mass amounts of food and stim packs and things like that you've put together to keep yourself alive. In fact, I think Ken is broken again as I see him sitting quietly, looking at nothing again. So I think his internet is still jacked. Oh well. Maybe he'll come back sometime this show again, just enough to let us know that he's missing out and hating it. Ah, that's great. But yeah, is that now, as you're getting into your Pip-Boy, everything's still moving. So I had times when you're looting boxes, looting corpses, doing anything mini-driven, things are still happening. So there were times I knew I was about to get attacked, but I had to get in there and grab something. So one of the things I recommend, they have a new feature in there, at least it's new in the way I think they've implemented it now, where there's a radial menu that is their quick select menu. And I forget if it's you hit, not the mouse wheel because that's your weapon select. I want to say it's not tab. It might have been tab. Some button that you hit that bring up this radial menu that I think you just rotate around. I don't think you can just point to it easily. But it's kind of their quick select menu. And I think it also hotkeys from tilde through equal sign or something on the keyboard. So it's more than just your 0 to 1, or yeah, your 1 to 0 keys, more than 10 slots. It's maybe 12 slots or something for hotkeys that you can throw in there. I highly recommend you hotkey your primary gun, whatever secondary gun you have, a backup gun for when one gun breaks, a melee weapon, your stim packs, your Rad-X, at least one food item, water item, something like that, like a full ring in there so that in the middle of stuff, you don't have to break out and suddenly try to go through your whole Pip-Boy menu because it's still as unwieldy as ever, all listed way out, and to find just the right gun that has all the bonuses you're after versus the one that's basically scrap that you want to throw away. And then once you throw it on the favorite menu, it does put a little heart by it, but that is to me probably the only way to truly deal with in-action combat and stuff like that, compared to, oh no, I need to get some kind of health regen and I need to go through the Pip-Boy menu. So that's one of those things that you definitely want to like preload out, is set it up so that you have that radial menu, the quick menu, ready to go. You do not want to rely on having to go into the Pip-Boy. Uh-oh. Ken was in, and then he's out. I don't think he was even happy with that. Like, I saw his face. I was trying to bring him back in. He didn't say a word, and it died. Just before he gets here, just in case, because he keeps complaining my audio. get the audio engine ready for him again, and we'll see if he joins us again. Oh, but yeah, so definitely use the radial menu because that trying to navigate the Pip-Boy in the middle of action is going to get you killed. All right, with that, I was going to, as I was hoping that with Ken back, it would give me enough time to go through and find the song I wanted, a song to play during the break. And he was here, and then he was gone. So now I don't know. I have yet to pick the song I want to play. So let me take a moment and find. I think I'll go back into an OC Remix song because they have so many. I need to go in there. I actually need to go back to OC Remix and do a check to see if there's anything new and exciting and that I would like to throw on. But let's see. During the pre-show, if you didn't hear, there were some really good Tetris mixes I kept hearing. I was like, well, that's Tetris, but really good. So I may grab one of them because, like I said, that I don't know which one I specifically heard, but I had some Tetris mixes that hit during the break or the intro of the thing that I really like. So I'm going to throw one of those up for some Tetris mix here. And we are going to take a break so I can refresh. Maybe not mead, just mead. Maybe get some water in me or something. I don't know. Something else to drink. And we will be back after what looks like 5 minutes of Tetris Remix. And then we'll talk nothing but BlizzCon and Nintendo as we come back. So try not to waste too much time. So I will see you back after this, everybody.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com. You're listening to ShowX on btwproductions.com.
All right, I can't do it. I need more time on the air, less time with music. So I am cutting back in to keep talking because we got BlizzCon stuff to talk about. And I was reminded as I walked out there, one of the other things that happened to me this week is that my air conditioning motor decided to rattle itself to death, in that the little things that hold it broke. And so I have no heat in the house right now as it's 37 degrees out today. It got up to 50, so it's not complete cold out right now. So I'm running my electric heaters in the house again. Disadvantages of having a massive house, 2,900 square foot house that you have to heat with heaters that are only designed for like 800 square feet at a time. That's a thing. Anyhow. All right, so first off, tell me about some Nintendo Direct, guys. What happened? I heard a little bit about Smash Bros. And if anybody wants to on Discord jump in to talk to me specifically about it, feel free. For anybody that did get in there, just call me direct here at DocDead, and I'll jump you on so we can talk some Nintendo Direct. Because all I saw was basically Smash Bros. Is all I saw, and I only saw it via memes. So I know it's coming out and that everyone's super excited, but what I saw was that, all the memes of Luigi pissed off because they said, oh, sure, they add a flower, a potted plant to Smash Bros., but no Luigi. But that's pretty much all I saw about it. So I want to hear from you guys as I start to transition in to talk about some BlizzCon stuff. What did I miss out? What's going on with Nintendo Direct? Like I said, that's all I've seen. Yeah, well, Luigi is not in the game. And so it says, let's see, the news says Super Smash Bros. Ultimate gets big Nintendo Direct this week. It's going to be the last AAA release of the year with December release. And admittedly, it's one of the few things that makes me at least look at the option of getting a Switch. Still not sold on it, but yes. That they revealed Castlevania stages, Chrom and Dark Samus, Isabelle, King K. Rool. Let's see, it was 40 minutes long, and it was all Smash. Let's see, what else? Hydro's saying that there's also information on Animal Crossing announced for the Switch. Oh, wait, sorry. That's just me. I have never found a reason to enjoy Animal Crossing. I've tried. It does not work. So that is not one that I am a happy fan of. Let's see, what else is in there? Nope, that's all the real news I see. Yeah, well, Isabelle from Animal Crossing was announced in September. So yeah, 40 minutes seems like plenty for that. So I admit it, Eleanor, I'm sure Eleanor Moon cares about Animal Crossing. I tried on my 3DS, and I played it for about a week, maybe two, going back and forth into it. And then I got into it once, like months later, like, look at all the weeds. That seems like work. Nope, don't care about this game anymore, and just never touched it again. But I've also found that I'm not in a state where mobile games work for me. I don't have time to travel with a console. Whenever I'm traveling somewhere, I'm there, and I'm interacting, and then I'm back, and when I'm home, I'm going to be on the PC. And so I just, it's a challenge for me. So, okay, so that was Nintendo Direct. Glad we got that out of the way. BlizzCon! All right, let's see it over to the news for the BlizzCon stuff, which we're going to get in here with a bit of
technology, news, and more today on the Geekoscope.
So, today on the Geekoscope. Yes, thank you, Hydra. Not my cup of tea either. No. That's cool. I get to close these out because I don't care. BlizzCon! All right, so BlizzCon 2018. And admittedly, jumping into this, everybody knows I'm a bit of a Blizzard hater in the sense that I really wish they would have more, I don't know, new IPs, new games. It's a big company with tons and tons of money, more money than they know what to freaking spend on. They should have games coming out constantly. But regardless of that, what did we learn this weekend? So, in my notes, what do I got? Now, I recently just went through and watched all of the, basically, videos that were announced, because really that's the news. You could have gone and spent more time listening to any of the panels if you're on the, if you had the remote pass, stuff like that. So I will rely on things like Hydroxycut, you letting me know some of the, not just the announced videos, because anybody can see the videos. I want to know what was in the BlizzCon Pass. What did you learn from actually having access to what was being shown at BlizzCon, besides just the tournaments and stuff like that they had? Because for me, in the order of things I learned about from Overwatch that we are getting a new character. This one's name is Ash, I believe, who the trailer looked really cool and the backstory thing from, but someone who knows McCree. And they have interactions together and are not on the same side of the law. And that Ash looks interesting. No gameplay, of course, just announcement, but looks like, well, the slight gameplay that was in it real quick just showed her kind of using what looked like a, not long rifle, kind of a snub in between rifle with a sight. It looks single shot, so maybe another sniper type, but we'll see. Beyond that, the only thing I really caught was, I guess, her Overdrive, her ultimate, will be bringing in the robot buddy she has, Bob or such. I forget his name. That'll come in and start wrecking people. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and when Ash gets delivered. I actually, just as I've been playing Overwatch this last weekend and playing some of it yesterday, reacquainting myself with all of 2 to 3 tunes I know. That roster has gotten big from my perspective, just because I barely know how to play any anyways, and has gotten. But when I compare it to like League of Legends rosters, I'm like, okay, it's still manageable. It's still only 1 page across, so it's not insane. A lot of damage dealers though. So I need to play more Overwatch. Happy to if anybody's ever looking for games. All right, so we got Ash coming out for Overwatch, which looks fun and exciting. Also, then, World of Warcraft while we got several new types of things. Let's see, Hydra saying, yes, Bob, and Damage Dealer, and we'll have the ability to do a fast shot and a slow-sighted sniper-style shot that puts dynamite that can be shot. Interesting. That'll be fun. And Bob is a turret. Okay, gotcha. That'll be interesting gameplay. See how she puts down Bob and whether he can move at all or just sits in place. That'll be interesting to see. But I've been enjoying Overwatch again, so I'm happy to play with some people. I do know there's a lot of other VT dubs that play it, and like friends of VT dub who play constantly. Wow. So there was a new cinematic that was talking about the Battle for Azeroth. And in it, one of the things I noted, and as admittedly, I am still, level 46 or something like that. In the original, I'm still in Desolace running around, marveling at what happened after Cataclysm, because that's how far back in the world I am, and seeing that it's so much greener now. But that it looks like they're continuing the overall story arc about what's going on in Battle of Azeroth. And, I forget the little Child King's name from Lordaeron in that area, but it highlights him having a discussion with you guys will know the names more than me because I'm behind on the lore. That's why I'm playing the game. But the orc he's got in captivity, who's basically complaining of things about the Horde, which is an interesting note, and please go watch it. It comes to pass, it sounds like that the orc he's got in captivity is still one who believes in the original Horde, or the Horde that is pre what's going on right now with Lady Sylvanas, how the burning of the World Tree and stuff like that she's done isn't something that's supported by the whole Horde. So it's continuing that kind of line of thinking there. People are still unsure of where they feel about the direction of the Horde right now. And so this storyline might harken back to more what traditional Horde players may want to see and being more honorable and stuff like that, and that there's a twist that's going in that's leading the path that they're on now. So that I found interesting and something that I look forward to hearing and seeing more of the story and where that's going to work out to. But I thought that was pretty slick. Have you guys all seen the trailer yet? Because if not, you should. Plus, it's one of those things that Blizz always has amazing, CG. They should just make CG movies and stop making other type things. They would do phenomenal if they let that team off the hook. Other notes that I have from there, of course, they had more discussion about WoW Classic. Unfortunately, it still sounds like all the new things that people really care about aren't going to be released until next year. Not just like January, but a couple months in. So we'll see when that hits. And I don't know what else there is to say about WoW Classic. I know I've seen some leaked videos that weren't part of BlizzCon that showed some of the graphics differences, that there was a version that came out that people were able to log in and see, and were able to compare some of the graphical size, some of the UI elements, things like that, although not finished. And so we'll see what it ends up being. There's still some questions about Classic to see how much of it, and maybe they answered this during BlizzCon. This is one where Hydra, if they have any information that was more specific about what's going to be Classic that is traditional old vanilla WoW, and what are some of the updates that they're still going to take over from the lessons learned and the technology that they have available today in WoW, what blending that's going to be, that would be actually a very interesting note to bring up for people to see. So I don't have a lot of note about that. The one, of course, and this is the one that's already been discussed here in chat. Okay, starting from 1.5 is what Hydra's saying. Which, yeah, it makes sense where they were going to kind of put it time-wise, but yeah, it'll be interesting tech-wise what happens. And the big announcement, I like how Copy puts it, it'll be vanilla with sprinkles, which is, I think, in a good way, because I'm still curious if raids are going to be 40-man, because I remember the pain of 40-man. Woo-wee! Yeah, let's get a lot of people together and suck. And have it really need 40 people, basically. I remember when you could do like 38 maxed characters for certain raids and you could kind of get through. But yeah, 40 mins were a thing. But anyhow, the other one that was announced, and I think this is probably, at least for me, the highlight or the big announcement of the entire BlizzCon thing. How do I say this? Knowing that I had little expectations for Blizzard announcing anything really jaw-dropping, new, world-changing, or anything like this, the one that I at least sat up for and am very curious to check out is Warcraft 3 Reforged. And so essentially a remastered version of Warcraft 3 with the updates they did similar to what StarCraft went through with their remastered version, in that it has UI changes, so you should be able to play hopefully at any resolution now, all the way up to 4K and such. That they do have a really good video that shows some of the specific character updates and models and stuff like that. And I think it brings a lot of characters in line with kind of what you would see in WoW for the quality of some of the characters, especially the named ones. And I think it brought a lot of the models in line with what people are used to seeing for WoW for the different races and stuff. So when you see a Tauren, when you see the Worgen, stuff like that, they look much more like what you would be used to seeing from WoW. Where originally, when you could tell, if you watched back to the original Warcraft 3 models and stuff like that, stuff in WoW you could see was inspired by and it looks very similar to, but now they've done the thing back towards it. So that looks pretty cool. It's interesting because they said remastered not just the UI but maps, so I'll be curious if they actually changed gameplay elements much at all. Tweak it so that maps play more intelligently for a different UI and different look, or if it's basically going to be the exact same mission stories and everything going through that were in the original. So that'll be an interesting piece to check. Challenges, and I didn't look at what the pre-order actually is. Aha! But here it is on my Blizzard app. Pre-purchase now! And it was funny because one of the pre-purchase options, I'll be curious to see if it's still on here. It is. Oh, that's so dumb. Well, not dumb. It's discounted now. Maybe it's just because of the items you get. But they have the Spoils of War plus Virtual Ticket edition. So standard edition for Warcraft 3 Reforged, which is coming out next year. And this one might have been January, I forget, but it is 2019. Is $30. Fine, I guess. Spoils of War Edition is $39.99. And let's see, do they say specifically what's different about each version on here? I don't. Okay, so it says you can pre-purchase Reforged releases on or before. Okay, so no, wait, what? Oh, that makes it even worse. Says it's not going to release. It's going to be on or before December 31st of 2019. So sometime in 2019. Great. I was hoping it was sooner than that. Then I'd be excited. Now I lose all interest again until it gets closer. And some of the other things says, let's see. You got to get a Hearthstone card back, which will be available November 5th. So that should be available tomorrow. If you get one of the pre-orders, a Warcraft mount, World of Warcraft mount. So copy, there you go, December 10th. New hero available for Heroes of the Storm on March 31st of next year. And a Diablo 3 pet, which should be before the end of next year. Let's see. Reforged and Virtual Ticket Bundle will be only available until it was been the 16th, but now they still have it. They still have it listed. Like you can buy it. That's weird. Because the Virtual Ticket was for BlizzCon, so there you go, but now it's already passed, so I don't know why that's still there. I don't know. We'll see. So Spoils of War Edition apparently gives you those additional pieces of in-game content for other games versus the base game, which is... So $10 more, you get some swag for other games. So that's cool. But still, man, I guess I can't complain about $30 for a game because there's a lot of people at this point who probably never played Warcraft 3. And so an opportunity for them to see it as a brand new game. So it makes sense to sell it at a remastered version's cost versus, of course, I'm cheap and would have said $20. Yay, but nah, that's fine. $30 isn't so bad. I'm just a little annoyed because it's not going to be available until essentially the end of next year. I was really hoping this would be something like first quarter or something. I'd been really happy for that. Oh well. Little disappointed on the time frame for it because come on, it should be done. No, I shouldn't be surprised either because StarCraft 2 didn't come out until... I have to go back on the dates for when it launched, but I remember we got to see it at BlizzCon 09, and it was still like another year or so before it came out, and it felt like it just took forever, so there's that aspect. We also got in Hearthstone, it looks like that new back that they released, a new deck or such for, I named it as Trolls. I think specifics because I did not really keep track of the very in-depth part because I don't play Hearthstone. But it sounded like that it's either a new deck focused on the trolls themselves or one of the dungeon/instances of the trolls. One of the Zolfaric or Zolgarup or something like that decks. And so I wasn't sure specifics on that. It was interesting because in the launch video for that, they had someone who was cosplaying really good, a troll that looked really great. But then they just had a whole bunch of discussion about the cards that I kind of glazed over. Thank you, Hydra. Was it Rastakhan's Rumble? Because it did make it sound like it was a big event that all the trolls come together and start beating on each other in or something like that. So, new cards for Hearthstone. Those are for the Handos of the world and such, and maybe even the Kenneths. And then what do we have? Heroes characters. So in Heroes of, let's see, who was that? Heroes of the Storm. What was the character they had for that? Shoot. I had it a second ago. It's on their page. Yeah, it's this, but Heir of Raven Court. And so it looked like they had two heroes. They had this little girl bouncing around with a huge, shield thing, demon mouth thing that she had running around. And it looked like, honestly, the other one is an undead janitor? Yeah, riding around on a bar of soap. Huh. That's something. So I saw the video, but I didn't think that was actually real. I should have known better. The girl looks interesting. She's carrying a locker on her back as one of the skins. Huh, interesting. So for those who play Heroes of the Storm, which I don't play a lot of, but new heroes for that one. And the final thing, what was StarCraft 2? It looks like they have a new hero character coming into that for the multiplayer. And that one was it. Oh gosh, I just had co-op commander preview for Zeratul, who is a Protoss hero. And it was interesting looking how the play on that one worked because that's where I was kind of concerned at first, but it's definitely in multiplayer like only because it has it where you can start doing. Oh, okay, cool. Hydroxycut says the girl is a character born of the Nexus, a new original character. That's cool. And then in StarCraft 2, Zeratul is a kind of a commander type who can call in other units, can set up buffs and things in the world, can seek out tech that allows him to go one or two routes, either buffing current units or creating leveling himself, I think. I forgot how that other half went. Because again, I only spent a moment kind of paying attention to those ones, what was going on with that character. So, with those in mind, those are like the big announcements I saw. Did I miss anything? Or this is where I am reaching out to any of you who paid more attention to the actual stream from BlizzCon. What was discussed in any of the panels that was really cool? Like I said, these were all just more of the video announcements that I saw and what I saw real quick and some of the discussion that was out there. Let's see, were there any more details in there? For the gal, let's see. Up until now, Heroes of the Storm has been sort of like Smash Brothers, bringing out characters from all the other games. New character Orphea was built solely for Heroes of the Storm, and she looks like sort of a generic, in my hint, this is the writers from PC World opinion, character. Looks sort of generic. Oh. Okay, so in World of Warcraft, it wasn't just that it's Battles of Azeroth. Oh no, the cinematic was called Lost Honor. Okay, that was the detail on it. Then, like I said, the video from Overwatch is called Reunion. It's actually pretty good. It's all about McCree and Ash. They have some gameplay video from Warcraft 3. Man, Ken is just having issues. Let it rest, Ken. Reboot and let it rest. Oh, yeah, the last one. Thank you. You guys actually mentioned this way early on. And then I forgot about it because I didn't have it in my note. Not only, so people were really hopeful, as they will from Blizzard, to have new announcements, right? Something that's totally new. Because some things are getting long in the tooth. Well, what they did announce that was new-ish, because it was a partial, it wasn't what people expected, was a new Diablo. This isn't Diablo 3 for the Switch, which, is coming out soonish, or is out? I forget, because I know people have been starting playing that again, getting all excited for Diablo on the Switch. This one's another step in a direction I wasn't expecting, which is Diablo on mobile. And so it's called Diablo Immortal. And I like that Hydroxy Cut. Diablo terrible. It's that I don't know how to describe it other than they have a big cinematic of people coming in. You know, what they mentioned 6 classes in it. What are they saying? Blizzard already told people not to expect Diablo 4, and sure enough, no Diablo 4. Instead, Immortal, which Blizz is calling, quote, our chance to explore 20 years of untold stories that happened between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. And the article here on PC World says, the only problem is it's a mobile game. So, you know, the trailer does show just like action kind of interacting, a bunch going on and what's going on. They do show a bit of gameplay in the trailer towards the end of it, where it's mobile, right? It's going to be clicking around. Actually, no, it's not in the trailer. I did see some gameplay in some place, though. Somewhere I saw some of the gameplay. I actually have a link that has all the videos from BlizzCon put together. If people haven't watched it, it'll be in the show notes. And actually, I'll link it out here as well for the YouTubes. And so if you guys want to check it out, this is a link of all of the videos that were announced from BlizzCon. So that's in the Twitch chat now. But the Diablo Immortal, I mean, it looked pretty and it looks like it'll play okay. But it's going to be very much, you know, it's mobile. So click around and do stuff. I'll be curious to see how abilities chain out. I mean, it's going to be pretty. Mobile devices have gotten strong enough now that they run amazing. You're able to actually put some pretty decent graphics on them. I know my iPhone X, everything I put on it plays and looks phenomenal. So there's that. You can actually run some pretty hardy graphics. Now the question just is, you still are running on a UI that requires touch input, and nobody's been bold enough to say, no, go get a wireless or Bluetooth controller and play it. Now you can play for real. Everybody's still wanting to make it so that anybody could just pick it up and play. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays through. And Hydroxycut saying, if you want to see the playstyle, check out the Bleach mobile game, which I have no experience with. I've never seen the Bleach game. Don't know anything about what it is providing. But like I said, just watching the basic gameplay of it, still isometric, still running around. Looks like they cartooned it up just a little bit. So it's not like the gritty detail thing, but it makes sense at a smaller screen like that to be able to actually see it. And so for me, I think that actually makes a lot of sense. So we'll see. But that was the other announcement, the one like new game I would say that Blizzard brought up. The feeds I got to see some of my people that I enjoy, Jeff Kanata, stuff like that, who cover a lot of games and their reactions and stuff kind of real time via Twitter. But again, none of it hit me as overly exciting. Warcraft 3 Remastered, or Reforged, I still say is probably the top of my list for their announcements. So we'll see. I'll be very curious to know what all of you guys think. Is there anything that you saw at BlizzCon 2018's announcements that you were just like, holy crud, that is what I was waiting for. Cannot wait to play that. That made BlizzCon for me. Because as a venue and my overall opinion of what Blizzard as a company has done with its own convention is that I am curious to know how people filled their 2 days of convention and $200 worth something of ticket for that event. I think it's a overly priced event for 2 days worth of con with very limited IPs to kind of discuss and go through, where you can go to general gaming conventions like E3 or PAX or any of these other ones where the ticket price is usually under $100 and you usually get 3 days of content as well as all these other kind of things to be a part of. So it's a struggle for me, has been the whole time, for what you get out of a Blizzard solo convention. It's similar to like with Nintendo Direct and stuff like that, how Nintendo doesn't like to play at a lot of other gaming conventions that they need to get over themselves. I was hearing some feedback recently where it's like these different developers need to just decide on participating in one of the bigger gaming conventions and really to help consumers, I guess. And actually, there is that, which I do appreciate, Hydroxycut. The cosplay competition, and I look forward to seeing some of the videos from it. People who cosplay Blizzard characters do phenomenal. Even when I was there the one year I went, their costumes were off the hook. It's similar to how I see some cosplayers that go to just Comic-Con, stuff like that. They pick one con a year and that's their thing, where I'm used to going to as many cons as I can in a year. Because they go to one, they will really like go all out for one convention or one costume each year. So you do get some great cosplay. the art, the builds, things like that. So there's other things that are happening there. Like I said, for me, it's just I struggle. Hendo, what did you say? Needs got together and drank a lot and stimulated the local economy. Nerds, okay. Needs. I was gonna say what? Needs is a whole nother thing. Needs gaming, but that has a Z at the end. We used to game with him. Yeah, well, what was it they also talked about? No, I guess that's E3. They've talked about potentially moving that convention because now that it's open to public, it's maybe too big for LA or wherever it's at right now. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's something if you are that much of a Blizzard fanboy to really get yourself immersed in. And I could see the appeal. I mean, I enjoyed when I went there, but there was a lot of lull time while we were there, and that was while I was still playing WoW and enjoying it the first time. That we just kind of sat around. It was mostly us friends just BSing because a lot of the panels they offered weren't that exciting to us, and like the little tournaments and other things they did. And we had our sit down time with all the pre-builds of early games and things. So we did everything we wanted to there. I think the only thing we ducked out on was the Ozzy concert because it was just too jam-packed and we didn't care at that point. So I'm curious to know how it's expanded, how it's changed over the years. I have not felt the need to go back, but I could see it's one of those things I would support if a group, and if I continue to play WoW, maybe that interest will improve, that come next year or something. If ever a group of VTWers want together, get together, support something like that, get rooms, do it, I'd be down to support the group and that kind of thing. So I'd be curious. But yeah, otherwise I'm not sure. I still struggle for that. I would rather go to one big convention each year for gaming, maybe two, and get every real player there at one time showing off all their wares so that I can just be inundated with content of things I need to try to keep track of for what's happening that year. So that's me. Yeah, I mean, the concert stuff, I didn't realize Lindsay was there. That'd be cool. I always love her concerts. I don't know training Christian Naren. Oh, hold on. So DJing. Okay, yeah, he's a really big DJ. Apparently his stuff's awesome. So, I mean, that means they had good talent there, which is awesome. So, that's good. All right. I think that's all I really had about BlizzCon. Like I said, happy to have, if anybody has more details and wanted to call me in on the Discord, I'll join you in. You can jump on air with me. Just make sure you have your mic and headphones if there's anything you want to bring up about it. And beyond that, yeah, I saw that there were a lot of their esports things that were covering. They had a lot of the tournament stuff on, even for the free, when you went into the app, or the Battle.net Blizzard app, for their launcher under the BlizzCon talent. Most of what I saw was essentially their tournaments they're hosting, me not having a virtual ticket. It looks like they might have finally put out some of the various things. Let's see. From the Floor, Lindsay Sterling, Crystallized. So they have little bits of content that are now out there for those who are after the fact. It looks like, yeah, they have like a little 4-minute thing of Lindsay Sterling on the video. So there's a few things there that I can come and check out there. Hydrox, I can keep tallying all day long. So, no, that's cool. Like I said, so that was the big news, and that's what's coming forward. So people that are hyped for Blizzard, you're probably more hyped now today than you were before this weekend. I'll be interested. I know for me, I've seen a lot of people are interested in new characters because, one, for just playing them in the various games versus cosplay options. Already, I've seen the list of people who are like, I'm going to cosplay Ashe, stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. All that's also funny. That's an Ashe who's a ranged character that looks surprisingly similar face-wise to like League of Legends Ashe. Huh. Thoughts. Anyhow. All right. So what other news did I have this week? Stuff that I had listed since I still got about 15 minutes to go in a solo show because of Ken's lack of technology this year or today. Let's see. That I did not care about. There are some things that, let's see, I had from last week and earlier. Oh, did I talk about this one? So this one was one that I don't think I brought this one up previously, but since I didn't talk enough about Nintendo, I'll bring up the story that came out from Blizzard Insider that I had for last week's show, and it's one, oh, would you shush? You have ad blocker on, and it pisses us off, so could you turn it off for our site and let us get ad support? Yeah, fine. Just don't inundate me with ads. All right. So this report come in saying Nintendo just snuck out, and this was published back on the 10th of October. Nintendo just snuck out a new version of the original Legend of Zelda, and it's available now on the Nintendo Switch. This is one that I hadn't heard anyone else talk about, so I was kind of curious if you guys already knew about this. So, over 30 years ago, Nintendo launched the original Legend of Zelda, a sprawling 8-bit epic that captured the heart and millions of people around the world. This week, so back on the 10th, Nintendo re-released the game in a brand new form, The Legend of Zelda: Living the Life of Luxury. Better still, the game is free if you're already a paid subscriber to Nintendo Switch Online. So if you are paying to play with your friends, which you now have to do on every console except the PC, on every gaming device out there, for $20 a year for the service, which isn't terrible, but it's a terrible trend and will probably only go up. That's interesting. Saying I don't know. I still like League of Legends Ash a lot. Let's see. The game was added. The game was added as quote a save state within the standard original version of Legend of Zelda. So what in the world is it? Nintendo calls it a souped-up version of the original game. Quote, you'll start with a ton of rupees and items. You'll begin with all equipment, including the white sword, the magic shield, the blue ring, and even power bracelet. And for anyone not familiar, that means the game's main character, Link, will start the game with a load of in-game money and powerful weapons. Let's see. It's kind of like playing the game with a cheat code. There is also a second, more difficult version of the game unlocked by completing the initial quest. The souped-up version of the game is the first of many such versions coming to the Nintendo Switch Online. Quote, special save data for other NES titles will become available in the future, offering fun new entry points into fan-favorite games. As of October, Nintendo Switch Online has 23 games, not including this original version of Zelda, and is promising to bring that total up to 29 by the end of this year. They launched this service back in late September, on the Switch, and with that you're able... Oh, so this isn't just for playing online. This is specifically for getting access to the classic library of games. And I think that... Because I remember hearing somewhere where they have a couple different versions of their online thing. They have the Play with Friends, they have the pay for this service that gives you access to old games, and they have some other like online ecosystem or something you have to pay for. I think there's 3 things that Nintendo has that you can pay for. So yeah, sorry, this is not the one that I think is included just with playing with friends. I think this is separate to have the, because they call it specifically, what was this one called? Maybe it is that way, but it's their subscription service, but I think this is just for the games. Because currently they show things like Balloon Fight, Baseball, Donkey Kong, Double Dragon, Dr. Mario, Sight Bite, Ghosts and Goblins, Gradius, Ice Climber, Ice Hockey, the original Mario Brothers, Pro Wrestling, River City Ransom, Soccer, Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario 3, Tecmo Bowl, Tennis, Legend of Zelda, and Yoshi. But I don't know if that's all the ones from the store or not. Anyhow, so that was a news article that came out. So for those who are Nintendo lovers and happen to have a Switch in their old store, you can jump into that. And I'll be curious to see what your thoughts are about a, quote, souped-up version of Legend of Zelda, basically having a save game in there that's all the way, like, powered out. I don't know the fun in that. Who knows? Maybe just to walk around the world again? I'll be curious what the harder version of the game the second time through is, but that one I'm still just not fully understanding what they're after. Oh, I could go on and on about, let's see, various other things. I guess I can keep it on the console world here. There's another Nintendo article I had from back in the day. How old is this one? And does it still work as a link? So this came from the Mirror UK. This one was back from June, so I don't know how relevant this one still is. Let's see. Cookies? Why? I don't want cookies. Oh, come on, site. Okay. Nintendo and Xbox team up and take a swipe at Sony PlayStation over crossplay. Oh, this is back about the Fortnite discussion. Yeah. This is back. So this is an older one that just talked about the fact that Nintendo and Microsoft Xbox were both saying that they were going to be able to play together on Fortnite while Sony was still continuing to keep their players in their own little ecosystem because they think they have enough people by themselves and don't want to play with others. So that is not really great news. That was just an old article. What else did I have? I'm somewhat trying to stay off of the net neutrality stuff because it's just pissing me off. Actually, no, maybe I will bring it up because you know what? We are about to get in an election cycle, and so regardless of your thoughts about specific candidates and things like that, when I always talk about one of the things that I will go off about for our rights is voting in favor of politicians who actually understand what net neutrality is and actually understand that it affects everybody out there and we care. There were a few articles and notices that came out recently about our current FCC chief that I think most honest, not politically blinded, people will say that it is not in our best interests as users of the internet that the current FCC chief is out there basically just to make ISPs rich, since that's who he used to work for, and that's what his walking orders are, essentially, are to do anything he can to support ISPs and screw people. So one of the news articles that came out from back today, although this one's not loading for me now, is that lawmakers want to know why Ajit Pai made up the DDoS attack and lied to Congress. Because when we had put all of our opinions in that said, hey, guess what? We want to make sure that we listen to the people and know their opinions on net neutrality, and people flooded their sites by saying, hey, everybody, we want net neutrality. We want to keep it Title II. And then the FCC under Ajit said, oh, no, you don't. That was wrong. Those articles came out and were bad. No, that wasn't real. That was a DDoS attack, and there's a bunch of fake articles. Then they came back and said, oh, we lied. And he still isn't getting in trouble for it. This is one of the things that's pissing me off, is why everybody out there hasn't gone and said, fire his ass. He lied to us. He's not doing his job as FCC chairman of supporting people. He's actually out there just for businesses. And he's basically breaking all the rules of the FCC and how they're supposed to be nonpartisan. Anyhow, so it says, Pai claims reports findings validate net neutrality repeal. Oh, this is a fun one. Says broadband providers are investing in their networks again thanks to FCC's repeal of net neutrality, says the chairman. Critics say otherwise. So this article from CNET says FCC Chairman Ajit Pai said a new report from industry trade groups shows his policy to repeal Obama-era net neutrality regulations is working to spur investment in broadband. But net neutrality activists beg to differ. Pai said the findings published, this is a couple weeks ago, Thursday, by broadband trade group US Telecom showed that broadband spending increased by $1.5 billion from 2016 to 2017, validating his policies which focus on cutting regulatory red tape. Quote, today's report confirms the FCC's policy to promote broadband deployment are working, Pai said in a statement. Under President Barack Obama, the FCC prohibited broadband companies like AT&T and Comcast from slowing down or blocking access to websites. It's also prevented these companies from charging internet services like Netflix a fee to access their customers faster. The Democrat-led FCC also reclassified broadband as a Title II service as a move to defenders of the 2015 rule, saying was necessary to ensure the regulation could withstand legal challenges. Title II regulated broadband in a manner similar to the way phone service is regulated. But Trump-era FCC has agreed with ISPs who say the stricter regulations have hurt investment in broadband networks. The FCC, led by Pai, a Republican appointed by President Trump, voted to repeal the rules in 2017. So the crux of all of this is that this thing came out talking about how investment has improved, and the report comes as FCC prepares to defend itself in court against claims from 22 states that are currently have things out there for local net neutrality rules. But they're saying that all this investment happened. The challenge is this report's accurate in that they've invested over $1.5 billion in new infrastructure stuff or whatever across telecom. But that is under, and here's where they screwed up, the rules that were in place under the net neutrality rules, not after the repeal, because the repeal had not gone into effect by the time all this money was invested. And so all them trying to say that they are claiming credit for this money that's been put into this industry is because of net neutrality rules before they repealed them. So them trying to claim ownership of winning something that wasn't theirs to win is garbage, and thus another lie that they're doing towards us as consumers, and should piss everybody out there off that we have somebody in there who is just blatantly telling people whatever ISPs want us to hear is complete full of crap. Anyone who understands the industry and sees how it works knows that he's full of it. It's one of the few people that when he openly lies to us in our face, I would see on the street, I want to just open hand slap him. it angers me, and just it's like such a dirty little weaselly way is what bothers me, because he tries to act as though he's doing it in favor of us and somehow helping us, and it's only to make money for ISPs who already have a monopoly pretty much everywhere. It's anyhow, okay. Additional article from Ars Technica. And this is going into why the FCC is on this whole push to try to say that they're actually helping us. And it says that the entire broadband industry is suing Vermont to stop state net neutrality law. State law says ISPs must follow net neutrality to get government contracts. So the nation's largest broadband industry lobby groups have sued Vermont to stop a state law that requires ISPs to follow net neutrality principles in order to qualify for government contracts. The lawsuit was filed in U.S. District Court in Vermont by Mobile Industry Lobby CTIA, Cable Industry Lobby NCTA, Telco Lobby US Telecom, the New England Cable and Telecommunications Association, and the American Cable Association, which represents small and mid-sized cable companies. Gee whiz. All right. Well, it talks in comparison to California law, which they also sued against, but is not passed, but has not been implemented yet. They put a stay on the implementation. It says, while the California law applies to all consumer broadband providers, Vermont law is narrower and may be more likely to survive the legal challenge. Vermont law, creates a process in which ISPs can certify that they comply with net neutrality guidelines. And it says that state agencies may only buy internet services from ISPs that obtain those certifications. The Governor, Phil Scott, a Republican, also issued an executive order imposing similar requirements on state agencies. The broadband industry lawsuit asks the court to rule that both Vermont law and executive order are preempted by federal law. This is where they're getting sticky, because basically what they're trying to say is that the rules that the FCC has put out there, and this is, hopefully they'll say it in here, because if not, I will go into it. Anyhow, so I'll continue. The lobby groups point to the FCC repeal of U.S.-wide net neutrality because the FCC order claims the authority to preempt state net neutrality laws. The Vermont law and executive order, quote, impose pervasive common carrier net neutrality mandates on an ISP at the moment it signs a service contract with the state. The industry lawsuit says the complaint for the states has all this other information. All right. Vermont vows to fight the lawsuit. To get certified for state contracts, Vermont says the ISPs must demonstrate that they do not block or throttle lawful internet traffic or engage in paid prioritization. Certification also prohibits ISPs from, quote, engaging in deceptive or misleading marketing practices that misrepresent the treatment of internet traffic or content to its consumers. And here's the thing, right? I don't see why anybody as an individual would have a problem with that. That is protecting your citizens. And this is an example where in Vermont, it's a Republican who is actually supporting this law. So it's not partisan. That's why I said, regardless of what side you lean on something, look at the actual individual propositions and things that are happening legally and vote in favor of your rights as a citizen, especially when it comes to your internet rights. That's what we care about. But one of the cruxes of this is, I'm actually now going to get up towards running out of time, thankfully, get to the end of the hour here, is that the FCC started this argument by saying we can't enforce Title II, we can't have these laws because it is not our place to regulate how ISPs function in each state. That's up to states to do themselves, not the FCC. We are overstepping our bounds, and thus why they repealed the net neutrality law. So they basically pulled out saying we can't do this from a federal level, it should be state done. Until the states started doing it. And as soon as the states start doing what the national level and what our administration said that states are supposed to do, now all of a sudden the FCC is trying to renege and come back and say, oh, no. We preempt what you do as a state because we're federal. Even though we said we're not part of this fight because we're federal. So it's a catch-22, or it's a thing where they basically abstain by, and that's their way of getting out of the fact that it was Title II, is they said we don't have the right to control states. But now they're coming back saying they have the right to control states. It's garbage. It's such a flip-flop and a convenient way of describing the issue and getting into what's going on. Please, please, please support your right to have net neutrality for equal access to information, equal access to websites, to not being throttled and things like that. If your state is proposing it, support it. Let your lawmakers know that. If they aren't, point to other states that are doing it and show that that is an example you want to follow. much like any proposition that you'll see out there, you'll see plus and minuses. There's a lot of misinformation out there as well. And I am so frustrated whenever I hear people try to go off about how net neutrality hurts industry, hurts innovation. It is the opposite. It forces people to have to innovate because it helps competition. It actually allows for things like having municipal ISPs, something we're big advocates here on the station, letting your local area control the internet or giving access to the internet beyond just big corporations that are only in it for themselves, because at least at a local level you can hire people that are running it. And so I'm a huge advocate of doing the things that help you as a local community do what's right. So just get out there, vote, pay attention to the issues. If you don't see a bill in there that you want, maybe if it's important enough to you, you can start one for the next cycle of elections for voting. But this is just another case where it blows my mind that we don't have people yelling and screaming every day, essentially for the resignation of Pi, for them not doing the job as a federal government, as a servant of the people, and instead absolutely showing their true colors of being servants of corporations, which, oh, by the way, if you check, have not been doing anything for your benefit, have not been improving the internet, have not been lowering prices, have been doing everything just to line their pockets. It's more than irritating. Anyhow, that's out there. As Ken says in the IRC, yeah, fight the good fight. It sucks to hear, Kuro, that you hit a 1 terabyte warning from Comcast. Thankfully, on my business account, I still don't have a limit as far as I've seen, and I've had to use it before. And yeah, I would argue so many companies don't have their correct meter. They're so garbage, and there's no way to really hold them to task on it. And yes, Copy, that's right. Sony did finally cave to a degree on crossplay, but only in very specific games. They've yet to open it up fully. There's still a lot to be had there. All right. Anyhow, I'm an advocate for us as individuals, as gamers, as technology lovers. Do what you can for yourselves. It is time for me to get out of here. So I will do my best to play Ken's part here and try to talk about all the places you should see us do things and be a part of the show. So let's see if I can do this correct. Why doesn't... Oh, there we go. Yeah. I'm going to cheat by actually using our page that's supposed to tell me these things. So, you can follow us on all of our locations. Let's see. You can check out our shows if you go into vtwproductions.com. We post there, as well as the stuff that's coming out for 20for-T and the games they're playing right now. They were going through Castlevania, the Mega Man. I'm not sure what they're doing next. You can catch us on Patreon if you want to support us and give us pennies on the month to allow us to keep paying for the things we need to, like replacing technology when they fry and keeping websites paid for and stuff, so we can bring shows each week without it coming more out of our pockets. You can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/showx. You can email us at showx@vtwproductions.com, and that way you can interact with the show and let us know things you'd like us to talk about, things you'd like us to do, other stuff like that. Please do. Check us out on YouTube. So we stream live on Twitch and YouTube, but all of our archives for all of our shows are on YouTube. So if you saw something you liked here, if you want to catch up with the things we talked about in the past, go to our YouTube channel at VTW Shows. I believe that's where we're at on YouTube. I have to clip up on that one. That should be our channel, VTW Shows, for Versus the World, and you should be able to find us out there. Let's see. Twitter, we have twitter.com/VTWShowX. Twitch, you have us here, VTW Gaming. What else do we have? We're on Facebook. Google Plus is going away, so don't worry about that. You can find me on Twitter on DocDead. You can find Ken at GoHex. And you can catch us each on our Twitch channels as well. With that, though, it is time for me to get out of here. You can check us out in the Discord channel. If you don't have that, I haven't posted that for a while. I should be able to throw in what the actual Discord is for VTW. Invite people. Where is a link? Copy button. Boom, boom. A link. Now, I don't know. Oh, okay. This is only a one-day link. So that's fine. For right now, if you're not currently in it, here is an opportunity today. Don't follow this in the past because it'll go away. If you aren't in the Discord, a way to get to our Discord, this will last for a day. And you can jump in and join with us after the shows. We play probably WoW or other games like that for Sunday night gaming. Now, admittedly, I will have to take off probably soon because I've got to... Well, we'll see if people are coming over to talk politics and stuff. And I need to probably pick up some snacks for them, so those things. Anyhow, I'm done rambling. Caffeine obviously kicked in, but it's time for me to end the show. So we'll catch you guys again next week. You've been listening to Show X on VTWProductions.com, and we will be out of here until next zombie. So, with that, leave this out here. Oh, internet things.
Goodbye. See you in the next zombie.